Hi everyone, here's a new video about how G Stomper Studio works. In today's video we'll show you how to use the pattern sequencer, the different step sequences in G Stomper, and also we'll explain how to load and save patterns and sound sets. G Stomper provides 4 different step sequencers: the drum machine, the main and sample-based step sequencer, the sample track grid, a multi-track beat sequencer, the sample note grid, a monophonic piano roll-like grid sequencer, and the EVA-Beast polygrid, a polyphonic piano roll-like grid sequencer. Each step sequencer provides a common set of sequencer controls. The common set sequencer controls are available on all step sequencers, with some exceptions. Besides the common step sequencer controls, each sequencer has its own special features. All step sequencers are used to create patterns, which are the smallest building elements in the G Stomper applications. So when you're working with the step sequencers, then you're always working with patterns. Patterns are the smallest building elements in the G Stomper application. A pattern is a short sequence with a max length of 8 bars, where each bar can have a maximum length of 16 steps. In other words, the max length of a pattern is 128 steps. A pattern consists of sampler tracks, main sequence, sampler presets, EVA-Beast synthesizer tracks, main sequence, EVA-Beast synthesizer presets, effects and master setup, mixer and EQ setup, a large amount of automated tracks. Patterns are loop sequences which contain triggers, notes, automations and sound presets. In fact, the complete musical setup of G Stomper. The patterns are used as building elements for songs or live sessions. Load patterns. Bring up the main menu on every screen. To load a pattern, select the Load tab and then choose Pattern. Save patterns. Bring up the main menu on every screen. To save a pattern, select the Save tab and then choose Pattern. Import G Stomper Rhythm and EVA-Beast patterns. G Stomper Studio provides full support to import patterns which you have created with G Stomper Rhythm or G Stomper EVA-Beast. Bring up the main menu on every screen. To import a pattern from G Stomper Rhythm or G Stomper EVA-Beast, select the IMP tab and then choose G Stomper Rhythm or G Stomper EVA-Beast pattern. Clear patterns. Bring up the main menu on every screen. To clear a pattern, select the CLR tab and then choose Pattern Selective Content. By default, the complete pattern will be cleared. By showing the content details, you can also deselect only particular parts of the pattern. Custom Initial Pattern. By default, G Stomper Studio, G Stomper Rhythm and G Stomper EVA-Beast start with an initial 1-bar pattern, 128 beats per minute, no samples loaded. This initial pattern is used every time you clear or create a new pattern, and will fill all empty slots of a new pattern set. If you prefer your own initial pattern, e.g. with a different length or tempo, an initial sound set loaded or a basic sequence applied, you can simply save your prepared initial pattern with the name init in the base pattern folder. Depending on your Android version, the base pattern folder may vary. Just make sure you save the init pattern in the folder G Stomper Patterns and not in some subfolder. Once you have saved your custom initial pattern, it will be used every time you clear or create a new pattern or pattern set. Sound sets are sets of multiple sound presets to be loaded into a pattern. A sound set can contain sampler presets, EVA-Beast synthesizer presets, effects and master setup, mixer and EQ setup. In fact, sound sets are mainly the same as patterns, but with the difference that sound sets do not contain any sequence data. Load sound sets. Bring up the main menu on every screen. To load a sound set, select the Load tab and then choose Factory Sound Set to load a sound set provided by G Stomper app or an add-on pack. Use a sound set to load one of your own sound sets, or sound set from pattern to import a sound set from an existing pattern. Then select one of the sound sets, or in the case of a sound set for pattern, a pattern. Remember, you can also click on Get More button to download more sound sets, sample or presets from your favourite app store. Finally, select the content you want to load and confirm with OK. The factory sound sets contain samples and sampler presets. User sound sets can contain everything you can save with a pattern, with the exception of the sequence. Samples, sampler preset, track parameters including mixer, sampler, MIDI instrument flags, sampler mute groups, EVA-Beast presets, track parameters including mixer, EVA-Beast MIDI instrument flags, FX1 to FX3, master and some effects. Save sound sets. Bring up the main menu. To save a sound set, select the Save tab, and then choose Use a sound set. Now select the content you wish to save within the sound set. And finally choose a name for your sound set. Generally, a pattern can have a max length of 8 bars, while each bar can have a length of maximum 16 steps. Remember that the pattern length in bars as well as the steps per bar can be changed in the timing and measure screen. The graphical editors of the step sequences are limited to 16 steps. In other words, you can show only 1 bar at a time. Use the position control's left and right buttons to scroll through the bars within a pattern. The position LEDs show the play and edit position in the pattern. The play position, the edit position, the left arrow button, right arrow button. The left arrow, right arrow buttons have 2 types of functionality depending on the type of pulsation we make on them. A short click, edit position up and down. A long click, play position up and down. To change the edit or play position, the pattern must have a length greater than 1 bar. The initial pattern length is 1 bar. You can change it in the timing and measure screen. It is also important to keep in mind that you can make a long click on the loop button to turn the play edit position chain mode on or off, depending on the activation status. This will be the available functionality. On, the play and edit position are chained together. Edit position follows play position and vice versa. Off, the play and edit position are independent from each other. A little later we'll see in more detail the operation of this button. Special behaviour on the main drum machine in note edit mode. On the main drum machine, if the note edit mode is turned on, the position controls show the current octave instead of the edit position. The current octave. Short click on the left arrow, right arrow buttons, octave up, octave down. Long click on the left arrow, right arrow buttons, play position up, down. Loop all step sequences. The loop function is dedicated to loop at a particular position bar of a pattern. If you enable the loop function in a 4-bar pattern, the sequencer will loop at the currently running play position until you turn the loop off again, or you stop the sequencer. Enabling the loop function only has an effect if the pattern length is greater than 1 bar. Remember, you can also long click the loop button to turn the play edit position link mode on off. The auto clone bars feature on the position controls all step sequences. The auto clone bars feature is maybe one of the most powerful functions in the G Stomper step sequences. We all know the situation, when you start with a 1-bar pattern to create the first loop, then you change the length to 2 or 4 and add some variations, and finally you change it to 8 bars and again add more variation. Usually at this point, then when your pattern is 8 bars long already, you want to change something on all the bars, add some accentuation to the hi-hats for example. On most drum machines, the only way to achieve this is to change the hi-hat sequence manually on all bars. which can be quite annoying if you have to repeat it over and over until you have all 8 bars changed. With Auto Clone Bars feature, you have to change the sequence only on a single bar, while Auto Clone Bars clones your changes to the other bars. Enabling Auto Clone Bars only has an effect if the pattern length is greater than 1 bar. Click the position LEDs to turn Auto Clone Bars on or off. And if you don't want to see the confirmation dialog again, enable the Got It, Don't Show This Dialog Again checkbox. Once the Auto Clone Bars is turned on, all automatic clone bars are marked with the letter C. While Auto Clone Bars is enabled, all supported actions listed below are automatically cloned to all the currently edited bars that are marked C. Changes in the regular sequence, steps, accents and notes. Sequence randomization, sampler track grid, sampler note grid, EVA-Beast polygrid. Parameter changes, automatable parameters only in step edit mode. General parameter automation, generation and randomization. Selections on the EVA-Beast polygrid in edit mode. Selections on the sampler note grid in edit mode. Auto Clone Bars clone rules all step sequences. Even if auto cloning sequence changes to all the bars is a pretty nice thing, it's not always the most suitable behaviour. More usual is a situation that you want to clone your changes to every second or every 4th bar, or even better to the most suitable bars from the rhythmical point of view. Therefore, the Auto Clone Bars feature has multiple clone rules to choose from. Long-click the position LEDs to show up the clone rule selection dialog. Then select your desired clone rule from the dialog. Once you've changed the rule, the CE marked bars change in the position LEDs. That way you always have full visual control about how your changes get cloned. Let's take a little look at the available options. All, clone to all other bars. Every second. Clones to every second bar. Every 4th. Clones to every 4th bar. Intelligent, clones dynamically depending on the current edited bar position. Bar 1, clones to all other bars. Bar 2 or 3, clones to every second bar. Bar 4, 5, 6 or 7, clones to every 4th bar. Bar 8 does not clone at all. With the intelligent rule, you have the full freedom to start straight away with an 8-bar pattern, without having to change the pattern length multiple times during the creation process, and without having to copy a single step manually to another bar. Step shift controls all step sequences. The step shift controls can be used to move, shift, already created sequences in the time axis left or right. You can move either the complete sequence, or sequence of views, or a subsection of notes, sampler note grid, EVA-Beast polygrid. Depending on the particular sequencer, the step shift controls have some extra features. Basic behaviour, all sequence of views. Normal behaviour. Short click shifts the sequence of the selected track 1 step left or right. Long click shifts the sequence of the selected track 1 bar left or right. If trackpad mode is set to the value solo, select. Shifts the sequence of all solo enabled tracks 1 step left or right. Long click shift the sequence of all solo enabled tracks 1 bar left right. Main drum machine, extras. On the main drum machine, if note editor is enabled, the step shift control acts as a note shift control. Normal behaviour. Short click shifts the sequence of a selected track 1 note up or down. Long click shifts the sequence of a selected track 1 octave up or down. If trackpad mode is set to the value solo, select. Short click selects the sequence of all solo enabled tracks 1 note up or down. Long click shifts the sequence of all solo enabled tracks 1 octave up or down. Sampler note grid, EVA-Beast polygrid extras. While the basic drum sequences can only shift the complete sequence of a track, The sampler note grid and the VA-Beast polygrid can both allow the selection of particular notes to be shifted. Note shift controls, sampler note grid, VA-Beast polygrid. The note shift controls can be used to move, shift already created sequences or selected parts of them in the tonal scale up or down. Normal behaviour. Short click shifts the sequence of a selected track one note up or down. Long click shifts the sequence of a selected track one octave up or down. If the trackpad mode is set to the value solo or select, short click shifts the sequence of all solo enabled tracks one note up or down. Long click shifts the sequence of all solo enabled tracks one octave up or down. The drum machine is a classic step sequencer where you can create or edit sequences using the samplers. You can edit one track, the selected track at a time. Step controls. The step buttons, 1 to 16, can be used in various ways depending on the selected operation mode. Normal trigger. Click the steps to turn triggers on and off. To enable triggers means the sample we played in this step. Use level accent fader to adjust sample output level and volume. Accent and velocity. In the world of drum machines, you'll come across two main ways to add dynamics to the sample levels, accentation and velocity. Accentation has two sample levels, normal and accented. The loudness of these two levels depends on the accent amount. In many cases, especially when created in basic beats, accentuation is the fastest way to apply dynamics to the sample levels. Velocity, on the other hand, allows you to set a specific sample level for each step independently. This gives you a much wider range of dynamics, but it can be more time-consuming to apply both the levels. There's no better or worse method. Both have their advantages. It's more a matter of your personal taste and what serves your personal needs in a certain situation. The main drum machine provides both accentuation and velocity. You can use either one or both in combination. Accent. Click the steps to turn accents on or off. An enabled accent, in other words an accentuated step, means if a sample is played at this step, e.g. 7 or 9, then it's played at a higher or lower level than the non-accentuated steps. A little later we'll go into more detail about this functionality. Velocity. Velocity allows you to set a sample level from 1 to 127 for each step independently. We'll also look at this feature in more detail a little later. Microstep. To get the most possible timing variety dynamics, you can move each drum machine step individually towards the next regular step, forward, by 1 to 31 microsteps. Every step has a total duration of 32 microsteps. Step condition. With step conditions, you can add a lot of variation to your drum patterns. You can also apply conditional rule to each enabled step. Step edit mode. In step edit mode, you can select a single step and edit every automated parameter, fader or button in this particular step. You can use the step to step edit mode to edit recorded automations, as well as to step by step create new parameter automations. Note edit mode. Click the steps to create a specific note for the selected track. Note edit and step edit mode. Enable step edit and select the particular step you want to edit, like explained above. Leave step edit enabled and enabled note edit as well. Click on the steps to select a more specific note for the currently edited step. Now we will talk in much more detail about each of these above points. Accent. Accentuation is used to add dynamics to a drum sequence's sample level. An accentuated step is played at a higher or lower level than a non-accentuated step. The actual level on an accentuated step depends on the accent amount, which goes from -100 to +100. Accent amount greater than 0 plays the sample louder. Accent amount less than 0 plays the sample less loudly, also known as ghost notes, in relation to regular non-accentuated steps. In short, you define one accent amount for a particular track in a pattern, and you enable/disable the accentuation per step. On the main drum machine, when you enable accent, the level fader turns to accent and controls the accent amount. Use accent fader to adjust accent amount. The accent module has two main operation modes. Chain trigger, accent off. Both trigger and accent steps are edited independently. Chain trigger, accent on. Trigger and accent steps are chained and controlled by multiple clicks. Both modes are used in many popular hardware and software Grooveboxes. Which one fits better for you is only dependent on your personal taste. Toggle the chain trigger accent mode on or off by long pressing the accent button. Chain trigger accent off, default. Trigger and accent steps are edited independently. In normal mode, accent disabled, you're editing the regular sequence, the trigger sequence. The regular sequence does trigger, play a sound for every enabled step. In normal mode, you will only trigger steps, accentuated and non-accentuated ones. If accent is enabled, you're editing the accent sequence instead. In accent mode, you will see both accent steps and trigger steps. A comment. An enabled accent step when no sample is triggered, e.g. 7, has no effect in the regular sequence, but such accents can still make sense since they're used by the Rhythm Arpeggio, for example. Chain trigger accent on. Long press the accent button to turn the chain trigger accent mode on or off. The chain trigger accent operation mode lets you control the trigger accent steps by multiple clicks, without having to switch between trigger and accent. In normal mode, accent disabled and chain trigger accent enabled. First click sets the regular trigger step no accentuation. Second click turns the trigger into an accentuated trigger. Third click turns the step off. Accent and chain trigger accent enabled. If enabled, trigger and accent steps are linked. In other words, you're always toggling an accentuated step on or off with a single click. Velocity. Velocity is used to add dynamics to your drum sequences. Sample level. The velocity allows you to set a sample level from 1 up to 127 for each step independently. This gives you a much wider range of dynamics than accentuation, but it can be more time consuming to apply the levels in some situations. In short, you define an independent velocity, playback level, per step. On the main drum machine, when you add velocity, the 16 steps turn into 16 velocity sliders. Once enabled, use the sliders to adjust the level of each enabled step, default 127. Again, you can click on the LED below the slider to show its current value, without the risk of changing it. Microstep. To get the most possible timing and variety dynamics, you can move each drum machine step individually towards the next regular step. Forward by 1 to 31 microsteps. Every step has a total duration of 32 microsteps. Setting a value of 31 to step 01 means that step 01 will be fired 1 microstep before the next step 02. You can use microsteps to create totally asynchronous drum tracks, but also to apply individual shuffle settings per track and even per step. And as a matter of course, the regular shuffle swing feature can be used in combination with the microsteps. On a main drum machine, you will enable microsteps. The 16 steps turn into 16 microstep sliders. Once enabled, use the sliders to set the microstep movement of each enabled step, default 0. Click the LED below a slider to show its current value. Step condition. With step conditions, you can add a lot of variation to your drum patterns. You can apply a conditional rule to each enabled step. Instead of just firing the step, the sequencer will then evaluate the condition to determine whether the step should be fired or not. If the condition is true, then the step will be fired, the sample will be played. If the condition is false, the step will be suppressed. Step conditions will give you the ultimate power to create incredible, self-evolving drum patterns. Let's say you have a 1-bar pattern, 16 steps. This will sound quite monotone as it just repeats the same 16 steps over and over. When you now apply conditions to partial steps, you'll be able to create a lot of variations, which let the pattern evolve over multiple loop cycles. To be able to apply step conditions, the step must be enabled. Steps that aren't enabled won't play at all. On the main drum machine, when you enable step condition, the 16 steps turn into 16 condition sliders. Once enabled, use the sliders to set the condition of each enabled step, default all. Click the LED below a slider to show its current value. Step condition types. The following conditions can apply to enabled steps. Steps that aren't enabled won't play at all. All default, the step is always fired. Pre, the step will fire if the previously evaluated step condition was true, means the closest previous step with condition was fired. Pre not, the step will fire if the previously evaluated step condition was false, meaning the closest previous step with condition was not fired. First only, the step will only fire in the first loop cycle of the complete pattern. First not, the step will not fire in the first loop cycle of the complete pattern, but it'll fire in all the following loop cycles. X%. Here you can select a probability percentage from 5 up to 95%. If you select 50% for example, then the step will have 50% chance of getting fired. X to Y. This will fire the step over every X loop cycle of the complete pattern out of Y cycles. You can select each cycle of a range of 2 to 8 loop cycles, starting with the first 2 up to 8th. If you select second 3 for example, then the step will only be fired at the second loop cycle of the pattern, then on the 5th, then on the 8th, and so on. Step Edit. In step edit mode on the main drum machine, the steps turn into a step selector. Click the step to select a particular step to edit. Long click the step edit button to turn the auto init steps mode on or off. Note edit. The note edit mode can be used to select the note, tone or pitch for the selected sampler track. You can use it to simply set the basic note for the track, or in combination with the step edit mode to set the note on a particular step. In note edit mode, the steps on the main drum machine turn into an 8-octave piano keyboard. When the note edit mode is enabled, but not the step edit mode, you will set the main playback note, tone or pitch for the selected track. Click the steps to select and play a specific note for a selected track. The default note is C4, MIDI 60. You can switch between the octaves 0 and 7 using the position controls on the left. On the main drum machine, if the note edit mode is turned on, the position controls show the current octave instead of the edit position. The current octave. Left arrow, right arrow buttons. Short click, octave up or down. Long click, play position up or down. Note edit silent mode. Long press the note edit mode to turn the note edit silent mode on or off. If enabled, you can use the note edit mode as usual to set the tone or pitch of a sample, but without playing the sample when you touch the button. This might be very useful in some situations, e.g. when you use the note edit mode in combination with the Rhythm Arpeggio. Note edit and step edit. When both step edit and note edit mode are enabled, you set the note for a particular step. In fact, it's exactly like setting parameters like level, pitch, etc. in step edit mode. Using the note edit together with the step edit mode is a quick and easy way to create simple melodies. Of course, for complex melodies, the sample note grid is the more comfortable choice. Enable step edit and select the particular step you want. Leave step edit enabled and enable note edit as well. Click on the steps to select the specific note for the currently edited step. To switch to some other step, just disable the note edit mode, then select the desired step, and then enable the note edit mode again to set the desired note. Note step-by-step recording. The note step-by-step recording is a quick and easy way to record melodies, notes and triggers, step by step, one after another. Since the note step-by-step does not start the sequencer, you don't have to take care about the timing. Select the track on which you want to record the sequence. Enable step edit and select step 1. Enable note edit. Press record, but not play, so that the sequencer is paused. Then play the notes on the piano keyboard. Every play note records a single step of the sequence, one after another. The note step-by-step recording ends automatically when you reach the end of the pattern, in a 1-bar pattern after recording 16 notes. To end the note step-by-step recording mode manually, simply press the stop button. Let's see a simple example. If you're editing a 2-bar pattern, each bar of 16 steps, you can record a maximum 32 steps in a row until the note step-by-step recording mode turns off automatically. After recording notes over the full pattern length, the step sequencer should look as followed. Rhythm Arpeggio. The G Stomper Studio provides a Rhythm Arpeggiator, which makes it very easy to create or record rhythmic variations. The Rhythm Arpeggio is mainly thought to be used live, but you can also record its output to the sequencer. Use the Rhythm Arpeggio in a single track. Make sure the sequence is running. This is required to use the Rhythm Arpeggio. Select the track you want to play with and make sure the R-Up stutter switch is set to R-Up. Now while the sequence is running, simply touch and move the R-Up fader to play the Rhythm Arpeggio. In the same way, live Rhythm RAP can be used on the sampler drum pads. Use the Rhythm Arpeggio on multiple tracks. Optionally, if you want to play with multiple tracks at once, you can set the trackpad mode to R-Up. Now while the sequence is running, touch and or move the R-Up fader to play the Rhythm Arpeggio. If you set the trackpad mode to R-Up, you can use the trackpads to play the Rhythm Arpeggio on multiple tracks. In the same way, the Rhythm ARP can be used on the sampler drum pads. Stutter effect. In addition to the Rhythm Arpeggio, G Stomper Studio comes with a stutter effect which leaves you a temporary stutter on the beat, repeating the first N steps of a bar to create a very nice break with a single tap. The stutter effect is a pure live feature, it cannot be recorded. Because the stutter effect is restarting the main sequencer, it's technically not possible to control the stutter by the main sequencer, the classic chicken and egg situation. Use the stutter effect. Make sure that the sequencer is running. This is required to use the stutter. Make sure the R-Up stutter switch is set to stut. Now while the sequencer is running, simply touch move the R-Up fader to turn the stutter on. As long as you hold the fader, the stutter will stay enabled. When you release the fader, the stutter will continue until the regular end of the currently running bar and turn off afterwards. In the same way, the stutter effect can be used on the sampler drum pads. We hope you've learned some very important features of G Stomper, and we hope you've enjoyed it. Remember to follow us on social networks to keep up with all the news about G Stomper. See you next time!